NYPD Chief Frank DiGiacomo was out at a protest July of last year. Susan Zwang, city council member for Bay Ridge, Bensonhurst, I forget exactly what district, was out there protesting with a lot of constituents fighting against a migrant shelter that Eric Adams was throwing down their throats. Protest gets out of hand. Susan Zwang bites Paul DiGiacomo. And I'm not saying like this wasn't like a nibble bite. This is like a vicious bite. When you saw the photos in the paper, Chief DiGiacomo had teeth marks, literally like she almost ripped a chunk of his arm out. So she gets arrested. She comes out raising her hand in the air. She's a hero to the community. She's immediately DAT'd, even though that is a serious physical injury. That is assault of a police officer. I don't know how that's even a DATable offense, in my opinion. She should have been put through the system. So she gets DAT'd. She gets released that night. We haven't heard anything about it for a while. I think council member Justin Brannon had made a joke about it and brought like fake teeth to the council at one of the meetings. And Susan Zwang had filed an ethics complaint against Justin Brannon saying, oh, that's not funny, this, that, the other. Anyway, comes out in the paper last week that Frank DiGiacomo and Susan Zwang, along with the Brooklyn DA, met and had a restorative justice session. And at that session, both of them agreed that they could just move forward, and that's it. Drop the charges are dismissed. There was restorative justice had. That came out last week in the New York Post. And then only a few days ago, we find out that actually Frank DiGiacomo had filed a lawsuit against Councilmember Susan Zwang, citing the permanent scarring, citing the injury, and mental trauma and stress. I'm going to imagine it's a pretty traumatic situation when a council member bites you and you now have to face, you're in the most heavily politicized police department that's ever existed in the entire world at any given point in history. And now you have to make a decision on what should go forward, charges. I'm sure that the phone was ringing off the hook that day. And I'm positive there was political pressure put on Chief DiGiacomo to partake in this restorative justice session, as well as there was political pressure put on the Brooklyn DA from high-ranking Democrats for them to go forward in this restorative justice session. So this whole thing just shows how heavily involved politics is, not only in the political process of New York City, not only in policing, but when it comes down to the criminal justice system. So, I mean, the reason I asked that is because I'm going to tell you right now, I've never heard of this being offered to someone who physically assaulted and permanently injured a New York City police officer, nor should this ever be offered to anyone.
This is no different than Monahan taking a knee. This is no different than any other chief taking a knee during COVID at the height of the George Floyd riots. This is the same thing right here. Honestly, I had put it out on X. This is a chance for the uniform to fire back, but would police officers get the same support? But honestly, this looks stupid. The NYPD is supposed to execute and bring cases to court without prejudice. The NYPD is supposed to bring cases to court and not have any interception of politics. But the fact that this case was dismissed and we're actually filing a lawsuit looks stupid. Is that going to be now the template for NYPD? Are we setting the tone, or is it only that he's getting supported for this lawsuit because he's part of Tier 1 in the NYPD? Is that going to be the nomenclature for the NYPD? Going forward, if you're a police officer, you're active, and you watch this podcast as we speak, if you get assaulted in the course of duty, is there going to be restorative justice and then you're going to file a lawsuit? Because to me, this now sets the tone. This is more just idiocy that I keep seeing from the NYPD. This is insane. I can't believe this is the same job that we were on. This is ridiculous. And you know what? Frank DiGiacomo, honestly, you're a coward in this. You're a coward that you actually allowed this. But I'm sure he's going to get another star. I want to know What do these stars do? Do they give you balls? Do they give you a whole new mindset? What does he do for you? I guarantee, John, Frank will be getting another star. You can have that lawsuit all you want, but this is insane because you're supposed to support the police department, the rank and file. You're the leadership. And now going forward, if someone else gets bit, we're going to have restorative justice. I mean, I was bit myself several times in the course of duty, and I never had a bite that bad. That's pretty bad. Susan Fang took a chunk out of him.
So I see. Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing that people are annoyed about, and understandably. And this is coming from the rank and file. This isn't just us. Like this is what the chatter is. This is what the chatter has been. The chatter is: would she agree to that meeting if the roles were reversed? If you punched her in the face, if you bit her, if you did something that permanently scarred her, or any city council member, or anybody else, are they going to agree to that meeting with you and say, oh, yeah, just go about your career. Don't worry about it. And we all know the answer to that question. It's absolutely not. You're going to be the front cover of the paper. Jessica Tisch is going to terminate you. You're going to get sued for everything you have. You're going to lose everything you have. And the weight of the New York City criminal justice system, more than likely, you're going to go to jail. And the weight of the criminal justice system and the civil courts is going to be thrust upon you and your family. So I don't think that this was a good standard. Would you have agreed to sit down with Councilwoman Susan Swang in this restorative justice meeting? Because I wouldn't have. I would have said drop the case. I'm not meeting.
Oh wait, of course not. Look, that's why we're not employed by the NYPD anymore, right? They don't want masculinity. Frank DiGiacomo, as you know, as Mike Smith said, my brother, that his balls dropped after the podcast. I think his wings were completely clipped a long time ago. In order to make it as high as he did with the NYPD, other than Rob Lukash and Ron Layson, his balls were clipped a long time ago. I mean, no way are we sitting down having that conversation. No way. Are you kidding me? Are you crazy? I got a bite mark that I might have a scar with and I have to be reminded of Susan Fang for the rest of my life? Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. This is an epic fail for the entire police department. You know, first of all, going back, we've completely lost tactics anyway. How do we actually get to the point that this little female councilwoman, and I've seen her before, that doesn't have much of a stature, how did she even get the ability to even bite him to this point? That's a whole nother conversation. But since she did, and she attacked him, and she assaulted him, and we're not taking action, this is terrible. No way. No way. And I'm sorry, Frank DiGiacomo, if you tried to restore some sense of masculinity, and maybe if you had a change of heart, obviously we don't know what happened there. But no doubt about it, politics played a role. You were a coward. You laid down. You took a knee. And you didn't take a knee just for you. If you thought, oh, well, I'll just take one for the team. This destroys the rank and file. Absolutely. Going forward, you are a problem. And you know what? I did feel sorry for him, but I don't feel sorry for him right now.
Yeah, I mean, let's play something else happened here. What would have happened if council member Susan Swang's at this protest? And by the way, I agreed with her protest. I didn't think it was right how Eric Adams, now anti-immigrant, when we'll get into that later. We'll get into Rikers Island and all that. But now the pro-Trump, he'll never criticize the president of the United States. How he was just dropping shelters in people's house. He was just dropping shelters for men right in people's neighborhoods without asking, right? He was like, this is it. New York's a sanctuary city. Take them in your house, We need to get a little volunteerisms going. Remember that? Volunteerisms? When he wanted some volunteerisms and he wanted you to volunteer to help.
Take them in.
We're going to get into Eric Adams and his immigration policy later and the failures of the Adams administration. And honestly, the failure of the Trump administration to do what needed to be done. But we'll get into that at a different time. But I agreed with the protest, right? So you're at the protest. Councilwoman Susan Swang is yelling against you. You've decided, Eric Adams is a great guy. I'm going to get my second star. I'm going to help this protest out, even though I'm destroying my own communities, even though I'm destroying the fabric of this country, and even though my tax dollars are going towards illegal immigration and not the people that it should be, the residents of New York. So I'm going to still stay in the New York City Police Department, because if I do this, I'm going to get a second star and I'll be able to cash out my time, right? I'll be able to cash out my time. So, we're 2% extra in the 2-star raise. You can cash out your time. It's totally worth your integrity. It's totally worth destroying the future of New York City. And
John, you bank your variable, bro. You bank your variable.
And you bank your variable. Totally worth it, in my opinion. That's not Judas accepting the coins and going to kiss Jesus on the cheek. It's not that at all. Don't worry about it. You're all going to go to heaven. You're all great.
At least Judas got 30 coins of silver. What's he getting?
So you're there. And now Susan Swang is going absolutely insane and bites you savagely on the arm. And you, out of reaction from the pain, and in order to get a rabid beast from ripping a chunk of your arm off, possibly killing you because you have vital arteries in your arm that could cause you to bleed out, you crack her in the face and you knock all her teeth out of the mouth, and she's laying on the floor in a pool of blood with her teeth there. Do you think that Frank DiGiacomo would have a job today? Do you think there would be a restorative justice session for Frank DiGiacomo? Do you think that Frank DiGiacomo wouldn't have been arrested for defending himself, for defending his own life? Because I'll tell you right now, you're all out of your mind. Anyone on the NYPD that thinks that if you would have saw a seated councilwoman get knocked out cold in a pool of her own blood after she seriously physically injured a member of the service, and he was defending his own life, if you think he wouldn't have been arrested and removed from his position, and there wouldn't have been protest after protest, and there would be an actual restorative justice session, you're out of your mind. Go back to the case of Juan Perez when he gets choked on duty responding to a 911 call. And guess what happens to him? Guess what happened to him when he defended his own life? He was found guilty of assault. Same thing would have happened with Frank DiGiacomo. You could have de-escalated it.
Yeah, exactly. The only difference is a little different caveat, that Juan Perez was part of general population for the NYPD. Frank DiGiacomo is tier 1. He's part of the upper echelon. So he was promised.
He's fall guy status. He's not tier 1. He's Paul Saraceno status. You're out of your mind.
I was going to get into that. You let me finish on it. But I was going to say that no longer is it necessarily are you safe in tier 1, because you have to watch out for the other rabid animals. So you're getting bit by Susan Fang, but you're also going to get bit by the other chiefs and the first deputy commissioner of the upper echelon of the police department. And that's what happened to Paul Saraceno. They're starting to eat each other up there because there's so much stuff going on in the upper echelon. So Frank, if you think you did the right thing, you are sadly mistaken. Sadly mistaken. It's not worth your 1/60th. It's not worth 2%. It's not worth having a scar on your arm. And I'm tired of people saying, oh, they bank your variable. Really? You don't get any interest while you're over 20 years on the job, while they hold your variable and they give it to you when you retire. It doesn't accrue any interest. I'm sick of people saying they bank it. No, they put it under a pillow. This is absolutely ridiculous. I don't care. It's not worth anything. But it goes back to what we've been saying. Where is masculinity? Where is moral principle? Where is the ability to stand your own ground and say, wait a minute, if we actually go forward with this restorative justice, we actually have this conversation, what happens to the rest of the department? What happens to the rank and file? There's no doubt in my mind. That I agree with you. There's no doubt in my mind that if he would have struck back and he would have had the upper hand and he would have caused any substantial pain or injury to Susan Fang, we would have a different story here. I wouldn't even be surprised if there would be a CCRB, also a substantiated CCRB, because we heard from the horse's mouth. CCRB testified the New York City Council. They do not take the totality of the circumstances. They do not look at what's going on with the uniformed presence. It's based completely on the emotions, the feeling, and the statement of the civilian complainant. This is an abomination. This is a complete epic fail. QCB says, John, tier 1 are the chiefs of a darker skin color. No, that's not necessarily the case. When it comes down to tier 1, it's about status and where they are at the upper echelon of police department. And they're starting to eat each other at the upper echelon. There's no doubt about it. Frank DiGiacomo, you would have been eating this one too.
Yeah, no. It doesn't. Your skin color doesn't matter, and your gender doesn't matter. You have to be completely obedient. You have to be an Adams loyalist, and then amongst Adams loyalists, you have to be a loyalist to them, right? So you have a cowardly, weak, kneeling chief who's an Adams loyalist. He's in tier 1, right? If you're a loyalist to that cowardly, incompetent, corrupt chief, you are also a loyalist. Now you're a different tier because you could potentially be the fall guy. But like a guy like Frank, just still trying to work his way up, he's not. I wouldn't consider him tier 1. I would consider him fall guy status. He's a useful idiot in my opinion. That's what for all you 1 stars out there, that's really where you're ranking right now. Sorry, it is what it is. It's the truth. Not to say you guys didn't have great careers or did or didn't. It doesn't matter. You're in the useful idiot status. Like that's it. It's the state of Adams NYPD is in shambles. It literally is. It's terrible to watch. So the standard now is, if you defend yourself, you're going to get arrested and get indicted. If you defend yourself once attacked, you're going to get arrested, indicted, and then later civilly sued. But if you don't defend yourself while you're assaulted, while you're seriously physical injured, maimed for the rest of your life, scarred for the rest of your life, the person who does that to you will get a restorative justice session, suffer 0 consequences, and then you could sue civilly. That's the standard. I think it's a pretty bad standard. I think it's terrible. So I understand why the rank and file's upset.
You've just watched a clip from our live episode. Click the description to watch the full episode. Like, share, and subscribe for more videos just like this.